I can understand that Google might have been apprehensive about activating the activists within their confines, but sacrificing James Damore to the woke mob because he told the truth is not a good move forward. And I just don't understand at all. You see, and the same thing happened at Penguin Random House. It's like, you could just fire these people. Like, they were people there who wanted to not publish a book of mine that they hadn't even read. You know, they weren't people who deserved to be working at what's arguably the greatest publishing house in the world. So why, you alluded to it a little bit. You said that people were taken by surprise, you know, and fair enough. And it was the case that there was a radical transformation in the university environment somewhere between 2012 and 2016, where all these terrible woke, quasi-communist, neo-Marxist ideas emerged and became dominant very quickly. But I'm still, why do you think that that was the pattern of decision that was being made instead of taking appropriate disciplinary action and just ridding the companies of people who were going to cause trouble?
Yeah, so there's a bunch of layers to it in retrospect. And let me say that this, what you describe it is what's happening now. So in the last 2 years, a lot of companies actually are, at long last, they are firing the activists, and we can talk about that. And so I think the tide is turning on that a bit. But going back in time between, 2012 and let's say 2022, so like a full, 10-year stretch where what you're describing didn't happen. I think there's layers. So one is, as I said, just people didn't understand it. I think, quite frankly, number two, a lot of people in charge agreed with it, at least to start, right? And so they saw people who had what appeared to be the same political, ideological leanings as they did and were just simply more passionate about them. And so they thought they were on the same side. They agreed with it. And then at some point they discovered that they were dealing with something different, maybe a more pure strain or a more fundamentalist, approach. At that point, of course, they became afraid, right? And so they were afraid of being lit on fire themselves. And by the way, I would describe, I think tech is starting to work its way out of this. I think Hollywood is still not. And my friends in Hollywood, when I talk to them,
not at all.
Not at all. When I talk to people who are in serious positions of responsibility in Hollywood, after a couple drinks in sort of a zone of privacy, it's pretty frequently they'll say, "Look, I just can't. It's still too scary. Like, I can't go up against this because it'll ruin my career." So, there is this group frenzy, cancellation, ostracizing, career destruction thing that's real. But let me highlight two other things. So one is, it wasn't just the employees. It was the employees. It was a substantial percentage of the executive team. It was also the board of directors in a lot of cases. And so you'd have politically activated board members. And some of these companies still have that, by the way. It was also the shareholders. And you would think that investors in a capitalist enterprise would only be concerned with economic return. And it turns out that's not true. Because you have this intermediate layer of institutions like BlackRock where, they're aggregating up lots of individual shareholders, and then, the managers of the intermediary can exercise their own politics, using the voting power of aggregated small shareholder holdings.